There's a moment that changes everything, and it happens so quietly that nobody notices. Not your teachers, not your friends, sometimes not even you. You're 7 years old, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, and you hear it, that sound. Your mother crying in the next room, or your father's voice rising, sharp and unpredictable. Or maybe it's just silence, the kind that feels heavy, like the air before a storm. And something inside you, something you don't have words for yet, makes a decision. If I stay quiet, maybe it will stop. If I'm good enough, maybe things will be okay. If I take care of everyone, maybe no one will fall apart. Your chest tightens just a little. Your hands move faster on your homework. You smile when you don't feel like smiling. You stop asking for things you need because asking feels dangerous. And without anyone teaching you, without anyone telling you, you become small in all the ways that matter. You learn to shrink your needs, your voice, your childhood itself. This is how a child disappears, not physically, but emotionally. Psychologically, they become the one who checks if everyone else is okay before they think about themselves. They become the peacemaker, the helper, the responsible one. And the world looks at them and says, "Wow, you're so mature for your age." But nobody stops to ask what that maturity costs. Nobody wonders what a child had to give up to become that steady. Nobody sees the exhaustion hiding behind the smile. And here's the thing most people never talk about. That child doesn't stop being that child just because they grow up. They carry it into adulthood, into their relationships, into their careers, into the way they see themselves. They become adults who can't rest, adults who apologize for needing things. Adults who give and give and give until there's nothing left, and then they wonder why they feel so empty. This isn't just about growing up too fast. It's about what happens when a child is forced to become an adult before their mind is ready. It's about the invisible weight they carry for the rest of their lives. And if you've ever felt like you were never really allowed to be a kid, if you've ever felt responsible for things that were never yours to fix, then this story is about you. Because the truth is this, growing up too fast doesn't make you stronger, it makes you tired. And until you understand what happened, until you see the pattern clearly, you'll keep living in survival mode, thinking that's just who you are. But it's not who you are, it's what you learn to do to survive, what the world sees. From the outside, these children look fine, better than fine actually. They're the ones teachers praise. The ones who never cause trouble, the ones who seem to have it all together, while other kids are still learning to tie their shoes. They're 8 years old, and they're already making lunch for their younger siblings. They're 10, and they're mediating arguments between their parents. They're 12, and they're working part-time jobs, not because they want extra money, but because the family needs it. They're 14, and they're staying up late worrying about bills they shouldn't even know about. People see this, and they think, what a good kid, so responsible, so helpful. But here's what nobody sees. That child lying awake at night, wondering if it's their fault that mum is sad. That child checking their phone every 5 minutes to make sure their little brother is okay. That child who stopped inviting friends over because home feels too unpredictable, too fragile, too embarrassing. These children become experts at reading the room. They walk into a space and immediately scan for tension. Is dad in a bad mood? Is mum overwhelmed? Is everyone okay? Their nervous system is always working, always alert, always preparing for the next problem they might need to fix. And the strange part is, people admire them for it. You're so mature, you're so strong. You're such a big help. And every time they hear that, something inside them learns a dangerous lesson. My worth comes from what I do for others. My value is in how much I can carry. I matter because I'm useful. This is the beginning of a pattern that will follow them for decades. What's really happening inside? But if you could step inside that child's mind, you'd see something completely different. You'd see fear dressed up as responsibility. You'd see exhaustion pretending to be maturity. You'd see a child who desperately wants to just be a child, but doesn't know how anymore. Imagine waking up every morning and the first thought in your head isn't, "What do I want to do today?" It's, "Is everyone else okay?" Imagine walking through your own house like you're walking through a minefield, always careful, always watching, always ready to step in and smooth things over. This is what psychologists call hypervigilance. It's when your nervous system is stuck in a constant state of alert. You're always scanning for danger, always preparing for the next crisis, always trying to control the uncontrollable. And when you're a child, when your brain is still developing, this doesn't just affect your mood. It rewires how your brain works. Your brain learns that the world is unpredictable, that safety is temporary, that love is conditional, that you have to earn your place in your own family. So you develop strategies. You become the good child. You never ask for too much. You make yourself easy to deal with. You learn that your emotions are inconvenient, so you push them down. You learn that other people's feelings matter more than yours, so you become a therapist to your own parents. And the cruelest part, it works. When you stay quiet, there's less fighting. When you help out, people smile. When you take care of everyone, things feel a little less chaotic. So your brain says, "Okay, this is how we survive. This is how we stay safe. This is how we make sure nobody leaves." But here's what that child doesn't understand yet. Survival strategies that work when you're 7 don't work when you're 27. What saved you then slowly destroys you now. Because you grow up into an adult who can't sit still, an adult who feels guilty for resting, an adult who says yes when they mean no, an adult who stays in relationships where they give everything and receive almost nothing, because deep down, they still believe that's what love is supposed to look like. You become an adult who is incredible at taking care of everyone else, but has no idea how to take care of themselves. And when someone asks, "What do you need?" you freeze, because nobody ever taught you that your needs mattered. This isn't about being weak. This is about being a child who was put in an impossible situation and did the only thing they could do. They adapted. They survived. But adaptation isn't the same as healing, and survival isn't the same as living, where it all begins. So why does this happen? Why would a child take on responsibilities that don't belong to them? The answer is both simple and heartbreaking, because children will do anything for love. They will abandon themselves if it means keeping their family together. Sometimes it starts with addiction. A parent who drinks too much, uses too much, can't show up because they're too lost in their own pain, and the child watches. They see their parent falling apart, and some deep instinct tells them, "If I don't hold things together, everything will collapse." Sometimes it starts with mental illness. A parent who is depressed, anxious, struggling with something they don't have the tools to manage. And the child becomes the emotional support system. They become the one who checks in, the one who listens, the one who tries to make their parent feel better, even though they're just a kid who doesn't understand what's happening. Sometimes it starts with poverty, a family struggling to survive, and the child sees their parents exhausted, overwhelmed, barely holding on. So they step in, they get a job, they help with bills, they stop asking for things because they know there's no money. And they tell themselves it's fine, they tell themselves they're helping, but inside, something breaks. Sometimes it starts with violence, a home where anger explodes without warning, where voices rise and things break and everyone is afraid. And the child becomes the peacemaker. They learn to predict the storm. They learn to diffuse situations before they escalate. They learn that their job is to keep everyone calm, even when they're terrified. And sometimes it doesn't start with anything dramatic at all. Sometimes it's just emotional absence. Parents who are physically there, but emotionally unavailable. Parents who are too busy, too stressed, too distracted to notice that their child is slowly disappearing. And the child learns that the way to get attention is to be helpful, to be good, to never be a problem. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it parentification. It's when the roles reverse. When the child becomes the caregiver, and the parent becomes the one being cared for. And it doesn't just happen in extreme situations. It can happen in families that look perfectly fine from the outside. But here's what happens developmentally. When a child is forced to be an adult, their brain doesn't get to develop the way it's supposed to. They skip crucial stages. They miss out on learning how to play, how to explore, how to be messy and make mistakes and still feel safe. Instead, they learn how to manage, how to control, how to survive, and that pattern doesn't just go away when they turn 18. It becomes part of their identity. It becomes the lens through which they see the entire world. They grow up believing that love is something you have to earn, that rest is laziness, that needing help is weakness, that their value is tied to their usefulness. And the saddest part, they often don't even realize it's happening. Because when dysfunction becomes normal in childhood, your nervous system accepts it as baseline. Chaos feels familiar. Calm feels suspicious. Peace feels like the moment before something bad happens. The adult who was never a child. Now let's talk about what happens when that child grows up, because the effects don't disappear. They don't fade with time. They shape everything. You become an adult who struggles with boundaries. Because saying no still feels like abandonment. Because disappointing people still feels dangerous. Because you learned early that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. You become an adult who overworks, who can't rest, who feels guilty for taking a day off, because productivity is the only way you've ever felt worthy, because stopping feels like failing. Because if you're not doing something, then what's your value? You become an adult who struggles in relationships. You give and give and give, and you resent it, but you don't know how to stop. You choose partners who need fixing because that's what feels familiar. You stay in situations that hurt you because leaving feels like admitting you're not strong enough. You apologize for having emotions. You downplay your pain. You convince yourself that you're fine when you're falling apart inside. You become an adult who can't accept help, who pushes people away when they get too close, who feels uncomfortable when someone tries to take care of you. Because you learn that needing things makes you a burden, because you learn that self-sufficiency is survival. And maybe the hardest part of all, you become an adult who doesn't know who they are. Because you spent your entire childhood being whatever everyone else needed you to be. You were the responsible one, the helpful one, the strong one. But who are you when nobody needs you? What do you like? What do you want? What do you need? These aren't just personality traits. These are coping mechanisms. These are survival patterns that made sense when you were a child, but are now keeping you stuck. And the cruel irony is this. The very strategies that protected you as a kid are now the things preventing you from feeling truly safe, truly seen, truly loved. You might have a successful career, you might have friends, you might look like you have it all together, but inside, there's a child still waiting for permission to rest. Still waiting for someone to say, you don't have to hold everything together anymore. And here's the part that nobody talks about. Many people who grew up too fast don't even realize they're struggling. They look around and think, everyone else seems fine. Other people had it worse. I should just be grateful. They gaslight themselves into believing that what they experienced wasn't that bad. But the body remembers. Even when the mind tries to move on, the body keeps the score. You might not consciously remember all the moments you felt unsafe, but your nervous system does. That's why you feel anxious for no reason. That's why you can't relax, even when everything is fine. That's why you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is the hidden cost of growing up too fast. It's not just about lost childhood. It's about carrying that loss into every area of your adult life. The many faces of this pattern. And here's what makes this even more complex. Not everyone who grew up too fast looks the same. The pattern shows up in different ways. Some become the overachievers. They're the ones who climb every ladder, check every box, achieve every goal, but success never feels like enough. Because deep down, they're still that child trying to prove they're worthy. They're still performing for approval that never quite comes. Others become the caretakers. They're therapists to their friends, fixers in their relationships, the ones everyone calls when they need help. But they never let anyone see their own struggles. They never ask for support because they learned early that their job is to give, not to receive. Then there are the perfectionists. Everything has to be just right. Every detail matters because mistakes feel dangerous, because imperfection feels like failure, because they learned that being good meant being flawless. Some become emotionally numb. They shut down. They disconnect. They go through life feeling like they're watching it through glass, because feeling too much was too painful when they were young, so they learned to feel nothing at all. And others become people pleasers. They say yes when they mean no. They twist themselves into shapes that fit other people's expectations. They lose themselves, trying to make everyone else comfortable, because they learned that their own comfort didn't matter. But underneath all these different expressions, the core wound is the same. A child who never got to just be a child. A child who learned that love was conditional. A child who believed that their worth was tied to what they could do for others. And the pattern continues because it's all they know. They seek out relationships that feel familiar. They're drawn to people who need them because being needed is the only way they know how to connect. They stay in jobs that exhaust them because rest feels wrong. They live their entire lives in a state of low-level anxiety because peace feels foreign. But here's what's important to understand. These patterns don't mean you're broken. They mean you're brilliant. Your nervous system did exactly what it needed to do to keep you safe in an unsafe situation. You adapted. You survived. That's not weakness. That's strength. The problem is that you don't need those adaptations anymore. You don't need to stay in survival mode. But your body doesn't know that yet. Your nervous system is still running the same program it learned 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's why awareness matters, because you can't change a pattern you don't see. You can't heal a wound you don't acknowledge. You can't give yourself what you need until you understand what you've been missing, the path to healing. So what does healing actually look like? How do you undo decades of conditioning? How do you teach yourself that it's okay to rest, to need, to be imperfect, to let go? The first step isn't fixing anything. It's witnessing. It's turning toward that child inside you and finally seeing them, really seeing them, seeing how scared they were, how tired, how much they carried, how alone they felt, even when surrounded by people. This is hard. Because for years, maybe decades, you've been telling yourself it wasn't that bad. You've been minimizing your pain, telling yourself other people had it worse, convincing yourself that you turned out fine. But fine is often just another word for functioning. And functioning isn't the same as healing. So you have to let yourself feel what you never had time to feel. The anger, the sadness, the grief for the childhood you didn't get to have, the rage at the adults who should have protected you but didn't, the sorrow for the child who had to grow up so fast. This grief isn't weakness. It's proof that you're finally letting yourself be human. It's proof that the wall you built around your heart is starting to crack. And yes, it hurts. But it's the kind of hurt that leads to healing, not the kind that keeps you stuck. You might need to cry for the birthdays where nobody really saw you, for the moments you needed comfort and had to be the one giving it instead, for the dreams you had to set aside because survival came first, for the innocence that was taken too soon. And as you feel this, something shifts. You start to realize that what happened to you wasn't your fault. You were just a child. You didn't deserve to carry that weight. You deserve to be protected, to be held, to be allowed to just be a kid. Then comes the next part. Learning to give yourself what nobody else gave you. This is where you become the parent to your own inner child. You start asking, what did I need back then that I never got? Maybe you needed someone to tell you it wasn't your job to fix everything. Maybe you needed permission to play, to rest, to make mistakes. Maybe you needed someone to see how tired you were and say, you can stop now, you can put it down. So you start giving yourself those things. You practice saying no without guilt. You let yourself rest without calling it laziness. You allow yourself to need things without feeling like a burden. You stop apologizing for taking up space. And slowly, very slowly, the pattern begins to shift. You notice when you're slipping into old habits, when you're overextending yourself, when you're saying yes, when you mean no, when you're taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, and instead of judging yourself, you pause. You ask, is this me, or is this the child who learned they had to do everything? You start surrounding yourself with people who don't need you to be strong all the time, people who can hold space for your struggles, people who give as much as they take, people who see your worth beyond what you can do for them. You start building a life where rest is sacred, not shameful, where your needs matter, where you don't have to earn love by being useful, where you're allowed to be messy, imperfect, and human. This doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when you fall back into old patterns, days when you overcommit, days when you feel guilty for resting, days when you wonder if you're being selfish for putting yourself first. But each time you notice it, each time you choose differently, each time you honor your needs instead of abandoning them, you're rewiring your nervous system. You're teaching yourself that safety doesn't require constant vigilance, that love doesn't require constant performance, that you can be enough just by being, not by doing. What this means for all of us. And here's why this matters beyond just the individual. Because people who grew up too fast don't just hurt themselves, they shape entire families, workplaces, communities. They become parents who struggle to let their own children just be children, because they don't have a model for what healthy childhood looks like. They become leaders who overwork their teams because they overwork themselves. They become friends who give so much that their relationships become unbalanced. But when someone who grew up too fast finally heals, something beautiful happens. They break the cycle. They become the adult who notices when a child is carrying too much. They become the friend who says, "You don't have to be strong right now." They become the parent who lets their kids be messy and loud and gloriously, wonderfully childish. They become people who understand that vulnerability isn't weakness, that needing help is human, that rest is productive, that your worth isn't measured by your usefulness. And in understanding their own pain, they develop a radar for other people's hidden struggles. They see the colleague who never takes a day off, the friend who always says they're fine, the neighbor who does everything for everyone else. And instead of praising them for their strength, they gently ask, "Are you okay? Really okay?" This is how healing ripples outward. One person understanding their own pattern helps them see it in others. One person breaking their cycle makes it easier for the next person to break theirs. Because the truth is, there are millions of people walking around right now who grew up too fast, who are still carrying weight that was never theirs to begin with, who are exhausted but don't know why, who are successful but don't feel fulfilled, who are surrounded by people but feel profoundly alone, and many of them don't even realize it. They think this is just how life is. They think everyone feels this way. They think they're just not trying hard enough, but they're wrong. And if even one person reads this and recognizes themselves, if even one person finally sees the pattern that's been running their life, if even one person gives themselves permission to finally put down the weight they've been carrying since childhood, then something changes. Coming home to yourself. So if you're someone who grew up too fast, here's what I want you to know. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you had no choice, but now you do. You can choose to stop performing. You can choose to stop managing everyone's emotions. You can choose to honor your own needs. You can choose to rest without guilt. You can choose to let people see you struggling. You can choose to believe that your worth isn't tied to your usefulness. And no, it won't be easy. There will be people who are confused by your boundaries, who are disappointed when you stop overextending yourself, who preferred the version of you that always said yes. Let them be disappointed. That's their work to do, not yours. There will be moments when you feel guilty for choosing yourself, when you feel selfish for resting, when you feel like you're letting people down. Those feelings are real, but they're not true. They're echoes from a childhood that taught you the wrong lessons about love. The real work is learning to distinguish between who you are and what you had to become to survive. The real work is remembering that the child inside you is still there, still waiting, still hoping that someday they'll finally get to feel safe. And maybe, just maybe, today is that day. Today is the day you turn toward that child and say what nobody else ever said. You didn't deserve that. You were just a kid. You did nothing wrong. You can rest now. Today is the day you stop abandoning yourself for other people's comfort. Today is the day you start building a life where your needs matter as much as everyone else's. Today is the day you begin to heal. Because you never got to have a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it, not from fear, not from obligation, not from the belief that you have to earn your place in the world. This time, you get to write it from truth, from self-compassion, from the understanding that you're allowed to be human, messy, imperfect, tired, and still absolutely, completely worthy of love. You spent your childhood taking care of everyone else. Maybe it's time you finally took care of yourself. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect, not when you've earned it. Now. Right now, the child you were is still inside you, and they're not asking for much. They're just asking to finally be seen, to finally be heard, to finally be allowed to be a child, even if it's decades too late. So let that child cry, let them play, let them rest, let them tell you how tired they've been, let them show you all the places they've been hurting. And then, with all the love you've spent your life giving to everyone else, turn that love inward, hold that child. Tell them they're safe now, tell them they don't have to be strong anymore. Tell them they can finally stop trying to hold the world together, because you never had a childhood, but you still have yourself. And perhaps, in learning to parent yourself with the tenderness you always deserved, you finally discover what you've been searching for all along. Not someone to rescue you, not someone to fix you, not someone to tell you you're doing a good job, just permission to be human, permission to rest, permission to put down the weight you've been carrying since you were 7 years old. And maybe, for the first time in your life, you finally feel light,